airplane window and I can see a sign on the runway and I can't quite make out what it says. I'm like, oh, does that say welcome to New Orleans? I was like, no, actually there's quite a lot of French Creole influence here. Maybe it says bienvenue à New Orleans. And I was like, no, there's more words than that. I know, it's New Orleans Louis Armstrong Airport, NOLA as the locals call it. Maybe it says, welcome to New Orleans, birthplace of jazz. And we're taxiing along the runway, and finally I get close enough up to it to see it properly for the first time, and it says, Larry Flint's Barely Legal Strip Club. And every bit of joy and elation and female, yeah, that's exactly how I felt, my love. Every bit of joy and female empowerment that I had in my body fell out at that moment when I remembered what the world actually thinks of women. Barely legal strip club. Just in case you're wondering, by the way, barely legal doesn't mean the fire exits were obstructed. That's not the kind of barely legal we're talking about. Barely legal is the age of the strippers in the club. Oh, they're barely legal, isn't it naughty? Oh, barely legal. They're just on the cusp of hymen. Oh, barely legal. Barely legal strip club, barely legal magazine. How is this still allowed? Why don't we start calling barely legal what it actually is? Almost pedo. If we started calling it almost pedo, they'd think twice, wouldn't they? Before walking in that strip club or buying the magazine. I'm just saying, if you're a necrophiliac, you don't get to have a magazine called Nearly Cadaver hanging on by a thread weekly. There's probably a bit of a stretch in it. It's probably more of an email that you get every day. It's part of this disgusting narrative we have around teenage girls, right? And all of the women in the room will remember this. There's a point in your life, it's normally about 14 or 15 years old, where it's like you're a piece of fruit that has suddenly become ripe and needs to be plucked by a lusty old man. The Sun newspaper ran countdowns to legal for Britney Spears, Miley Cyrus and Charlotte Church. Right? And on Charlotte Church's one, there was a picture of her at a concert in hot pants singing and a calendar next to it. So you could count down the amount of days left till it was acceptable to wank at that photo. And in the same issue of The Sun, on the very same page underneath, in a completely separate story, was the headline, "Paedophile Britain, they're everywhere!" And The Sun couldn't see the irony of running those two stories back to back. Countdown to legal, like a clock that perverts everywhere keep in their office. I imagine technology's moved on now. There's probably an app, isn't there? Probably an app like Uber will just have a map with like young girls walking around on it. They call it Puber. Yeah. Yes. What I'm saying is New Orleans had really laid its cards on the table. I might as well have just stayed on the plane and gone back home. So I was like, I feel like you have nothing to offer me, New Orleans. Because Louisiana has lust covered. But it is not just for young girls, it is also for guns. Mm-hmm. Yeah.